morning. Namaste to each of you. Thank you for joining me this morning to honor your mind and your body and your spirit. Let's just take a moment and get comfortable in a seated position where your spine, back of your neck can be nice and long and tall and straight, opening up your chest, opening up your diaphragm, and opening up your heart. Gently close your eyes and soften your thoughts. Soften your eyes. Soften your shoulders. Soften your heart. Observe your breath as it is, soft and gentle, breathing life into you with each inhale and relaxation with each exhale. Feel the grace of being present, returning to that awareness again and again. You may open your eyes now. For this morning's intention, you may think of a positive word or phrase to have with you on your mat and perhaps carry with you throughout the day. This morning's intention I'd like to talk about is the third limb of the 8 limbs of yoga, which is asanas. Most of us were introduced to yoga by taking a yoga class where we wiggled into and wiggled out of poses. Those poses are asanas. We learned Tadasana, which is mountain pose, Uttanasana, which is forward fold, and Virabhadrasana, which is warrior pose. And all the Sanskrit names for poses end with asana. Asana is actually Sanskrit for seated. And the original asana was developed for meditation, so the yogi could be comfortable being seated within oneself. An asana practice would be done before meditation to prepare the mind and the body to be still for a long time. Or it would be done after to relieve your body from stiffness. So fast forward hundreds, if not thousands of years, and we have extracted the asanas out of the 8 limbs of yoga and consider it a standalone form of exercise. An asana practice is now about keeping us mobile by inviting poses into our bodies that add to our flexibility, our strength, and our balance. But let's look at the placement of asanas on the 8 limbs of yoga. It's number 3 behind the Yamas, which are number 1, and the Niyamas, which are number 2. Yamas, such as kindness and non-excess, and Niyamas, such as self-discipline and self-study, are important guidelines for our asana practice. Let the pose serve you, not you serve the pose. So for our pranayama, the breathing technique we're going to do today is Ujjayi Breath. It's also known as, Sanskrit for victorious breath, and it's also known as ocean breath for the sound that it makes. But I hope you consider it to be the soundtrack for your yoga or asana practice. The Ujjayi breath quiets the mind, it increases the oxygen, and it slows the flow of breathing. But in addition to that, you have that actual audible sound that you can tune into and to determine how the pose is serving you. So if you are feeling that your breath is on a shallow spot, you would need to adjust your pose so that your breathing is unrestricted. It has a nice flow, a nice inhale and exhale that's complete. So speaking of complete, the Ujjayi breath is layered on top of the Dirja breath, which is also known as the complete breath. So it emanates from your stomach, comes up your rib cage, comes up to your chest, and then flows away from your chest, your rib cage, and your stomach. So it's a deep breath all the way from your stomach on up, and then flowing away from your chest on down to your stomach. So you make sure you get your stomach involved in this breathing. And the sound it makes is actually coming from the back of your throat. The exhale is like you're trying to fog up a mirror. You have that kind of audible sound in the back of your throat. And then the inhale is kind of like Darth Vader, where you're, but you're doing that with your mouth closed. So it's all going through your nose. So let's just practice a few moments and try to tune into that audible part in the back of our throat. So inhale, doing your best Darth Vader, and then exhale, like you're trying to fog up a mirror. Coming from your stomach all the way up. And then away from your chest, ribs, and stomach. All right, but we'll practice that some more when we get on our mat, which is what I'm about to do. So to talk about the asanas, there's several categories that I can classify them in. Again, it's all about mobility. It's all about adding poses and exercises to your body so that you increase strength, balance, and flexibility so that you can be mobile, basically, is the bottom line. So you can be mobile. So again, the focus would be balance, strength, flexibility. And there's a fourth one, restorative. It's very important. As we know, 8 hours of sleep is a wonderful goal to strive for. So in yoga, we build in that restorative poses too, so that your body can rest. The types of poses that we do involve seated poses, they involve standing poses, they involve reclining poses, whether you're prone on your stomach or supine, which is on your back. And within those seated, standing, and reclining poses, there's twists that you can do, there's bends you can add, and there's inversions. And an inversion is when your heart is higher, higher above your head. It's like higher than your head, above your head. So think of downward dog. You're in that upside down V shape with your hips up toward the sky. Your heart is higher than your head in that. And then ability, beginners, there's a lot of beginner poses. They blend into intermediate poses, and you can choose one or the other. I think they all add benefit to you for your mobility. You don't have to go to the advanced, which we actually only do one advanced, and then there's above that level of ability is what's called master. And those are the super duper pretzel poses. And I think for your daily practice, maybe it's nice if you like a challenge to strive for that. But on your daily practice, I think that flexibility, balance, and strength is well addressed through beginner and intermediate poses. So with that said, let's get started. And I'm going to cite, as we do the pose, what focus the pose has. And this is based off of an app I use on my iPad. And some of them I totally agree with them. Some had me scratching my head. It's like, really? So we'll go through them, and I'll indicate from that app what they think the focus is, and also what I think the focus is. So in your seated position, let's begin with our sun breath, and we're going to bring our fingertips to the side and inhale, sweeping our hands up to the sky. And this is a nice spot where you can practice your Ujjayi breath, really get in tune with synchronizing your breath with your movement and hearing that sound. That ocean sound. Okay, after tuning into your breath, let's bring it arms up on the inhale, and then twist over to the left, bringing our hands down, placing the right hand on our knee and the left hand behind our hips. And then we'll sweep again. We'll create a nice even flow with this. Sweep the hands up on the inhale and then down on the exhale, bringing your left hand to your right knee, right hand behind your hips, twisting your torso to the right, and then sweeping up again. And just continue at your own pace in focusing on your breath, listening to the sound. Maybe you can hear it become a little shallower as you twist and really twist your torso into that move. And bringing it over to each side one more time. And then coming back to center. And then bring our hands down. And the first one, the just basic seated pose, us sitting here, is restorative. The sun breath is restorative. The twists are obviously flexibility. And we're gonna roll down on our backs now. So you can roll down either with your knees bent or knees straight, or knees tucked with your hands tucked under your knees. For express method. And we're going to come into mountain pose, a reclined mountain pose. So mountain pose is an active pose. We'll get to Shavasana at the end, but mountain pose is reclined. And mountain pose is balance. And you may wonder, how am I balancing if I'm lying on the mat? Well, balance can be meaning that you're like balancing in the air on one foot type of balance, or your body is balanced, meaning evenly, the weight's evenly distributed through your body. Your left shoulder's is not higher than your right. They're both kind of snug down into the mat, shoulder blades. Your arms are balanced on each side of you. Your legs are balanced, they're straight down, and you can feel them in contact with the mat and evenly contacting the mat on each side. Navel's tucked to the spine and bringing your lower back down to the mat. And just kind of first minute here, feel that connection with your mat, and each spot where it's connecting to the mat, feel that it's balanced, or maybe you can tweak it to make it feel a little bit more evenly distributed. Alrighty, and now we're going to take our right foot, the sole of our right foot, slide it up our inner part of our left leg to the point where it reaches the knee of our left leg, and our legs become a figure 4. And then we'll take our right ankle, place it above our left kneecap, and then bring our left leg up into reclined pigeon pose. So you can have your foot on the mat with your knee pointing to the right side of the mat. That's one version. Or you can lift your left leg up, wrapping your hands around the back of the thigh of your left leg. That's another version. Or another version we've been experimenting with is just doing the hands off and kind of sending our knee down toward the bottom of our right knee down toward the bottom of the mat as we try to bring our left knee toward our shoulders. So there's a kind of a resistance going on there. So any version that works for you, again, this is about having the pose serve you. Feel that equal distribution of effort and relaxation here. And then place your left foot on the mat and slide it down to the end of the mat, keeping your right ankle right above the left knee. And then we're going to take that right knee, send it up toward the ceiling, and then send it over to the left side of the mat. You can guide it with your left hand. Come into a twist for flexibility. And the reclined pigeon was about strength, and I think about flexibility. And then bring your right leg back down onto the mat. So you're back into mountain pose. And again, just kind of wiggle around, feel like you are nice and comfortable and set in your mat. And then slide the sole of your left foot up the inner part of your right leg until it reaches the knee. The knees, your left knee is pointing to the left side of the mat. And then we're going to bring the left ankle over, resting on top of the right leg, just above the kneecap. And slide the right foot up so that it's on the mat. And recline pigeon pose can be this. You just guide your left knee toward the left side of the mat. Or you can lift your right leg up, interlacing your hands behind your right thigh, flexing your toes up to the sky. Maybe guiding your knee toward your chest a little bit more using your hands. Or the hands-off version where you're bringing your right knee toward your chest, but with your effort, you're pushing your left knee toward the bottom of the mat. And strength, we talk about strength. There's strength in different parts of our body. A lot of what I find, one of the benefits of yoga, and you can put your leg down and slide your right leg all the way down now, is that there's a lot of focus on strengthening your core, which has a multitude of benefits, especially those who suffer, like myself, lower back issues. The stronger my core has gotten over the years, the less my back is a problem. It's just almost miraculous, because I've been suffering lower back pain for, I would say, 40 years, if not 50 years. Seriously. All right, so we're gonna take our left knee and keeping our ankle on or foot on the right knee. We're gonna bring our left knee over to the right side of the mat. Get yakking and forget where I am. And that's for flexibility, nice supine twist. And then bring your knee back and send your feet back down to the end of the mat. We're going to bring both knees up, and you can either roll over to the side, and we're going to come up into our hands and knees, or you can tuck your hands underneath and rock and roll. Just going to do a massage on your spine until you get to a seated position. And then lean over your legs, bring your hands to the mat, come into hands and knees, whichever way works for you. So with tabletop is about balance, and it's the balance about making sure that you have that equal distribution of weight in your hands. So your fingers are splayed apart, index fingers pointing up toward the top of the mat. And you can grip the mat, and this actually, finding that it's helpful, not only just keeping you stable on the mat, but it adds strength to your fingers as well. Your wrists are right below your shoulders. Your knees are right below your hips, and your navel's tucked to your spine, creating a nice straight back. So pushing down into your hands, you create space between your shoulders and your ears, and you have a nice balance and distribution of weight here. So let's go into our cat-cows, which actually adds strength. It's the core strength, but it also adds flexibility for our spine. So inhale or exhaling, rounding our back into cat. Really stretch it out. And then lifting our head and tailbone and sending our gaze straight ahead for cow. And then again, exhaling for cat, rounding our back, tucking our head and tailbone down. Inhale, lifting our head and our tailbone up for cow. Exhale to cat. Head and tailbone come down, really stretching out that spine. Inhale, head comes up, tailbone comes up. And just continue, maybe incorporate your Ujjayi breath a little bit so you can synchronize your movements to your breath. And then come back to tabletop, tucking your navel to your spine, creating that nice flat back. And we're going to do a variation on bird dog today, where we're going to do a little bit more of the strength building and balance building. So we're going to lift our right leg up to the sky and keep your hand in front of you where your weight's distributed evenly on them. And then lifting your left hand up to the sky. We're going to bring elbow to knee underneath our torso. And then extend the leg and arm out. So bird dog with a knee and elbow touch underneath. And just keep doing that for a little bit. You can feel how it's affecting your balance and that core strength that it's building. We'll do 2 more, straightening out the leg and arm, and then bringing the elbow to knee. 2, and 1 more, knee to elbow, and then stretch it out and bring them both back down to the mat. We'll do that on the other side. So extend your left leg out, extend your right arm out, and then bring your right knee and right elbow, left knee together. Straighten it out. Knee to elbow. Straightening it out. Knee to elbow. Straighten it out. Knee to elbow. We'll do 2 more. 2. And 1. Straightening it out and bringing your hands and your knee back down to the mat. Then we're going to send our left foot outside the mat, kind of kickstand it outside the mat to the left. Send our right toes back down to the bottom of the mat. Our left wrist is right below our left shoulder. I'm going to sweep our hand up to the sky or modified plank pose. And then bring our hand back down. And then sweep it back up again. This is a strength pose. Building strength in our arms and our torso. And then sweeping it up again. And exhale, bring it back down. And one last time, sweep it up. And bring it right back down. We'll do that on the other side. So come back to tabletop. Just reconnect to tabletop. All the points of pushing down in your hands. Shoulders are right above your wrists. Hips right above your knees. And then kickstand your right foot out. Send your left foot down to the bottom. And then inhale, sweeping your left hand all the way up to the sky. And if you can follow your hand with your gaze. And then bring your hand back down on the exhale. Then inhale, sweep it up. And exhale, bringing it back down. Sweeping it back up again. And back down. And one last time, sweeping it up. Big inhale. And exhale. And we'll come back to tabletop. Tuck your toes under and walk your hands back to come into a squat. Squats are about strength in your legs, pushing down into your feet, coming into mountain pose. And as I mentioned earlier, mountain pose is about balance. Well, that was one form of balance. This is the other form of balance. And just for a second, I'd like you to close your eyes and try to stand absolutely still. And maybe this works better for you than it does for me, but I can feel myself kind of swaying around, especially when I go to the hairdressers and she has me close my eyes, stand up, close my eyes while she trims my bangs. I'm like flying all over the place. So this is actually a balance pose that's kind of deceptive. So let's bring our big toes, point them to the straight edge of the mat, lifting our toes up off the mat, bringing them down, lifting our heels up off the mat, and bring them down. Legs are nice and straight and strong. Gentle bend in our knees, navel is tucked to our spine. Shoulders are relaxed and rolled back. Chin is slightly tucked toward the chest, elongating our back of our neck down to our spine. Crown of our head is reaching up to the sky. We're going to sweep our hands all the way up overhead. And then exhale, bring them down to the mat, bending our knees as we go, supporting our lower back. And just check in. And then inhale, bring our hands to our shins, straightening out our back, sending our gaze straight down, really stretching out that spine. So these are all flexibility, the forward folds. And then sending the crown of our head down toward the ground. Then sweep our hands from the mat all the way up overhead. We'll come up onto our tippy toes and we'll just sway here for a moment for palm tree. And this one is a balance pose. And then bring our heels back down, bring our hands back down to the mat, bending our knees as we go. Inhale, lifting our hands to our shins, flattening out our back. And then sending the crown of our head down toward the ground. Just relax here for a moment. Let gravity take over. And then sweep our hands all the way up overhead. Hands come together. And for supported side stretch, we're going to bring our right hand down the right thigh and slide it down toward our knee. This is a flexibility pose. And then bringing it back up. And then lowering the left hand to the left thigh. And flexing over to the left side. And then coming back up. Bring your hand back down. Stretching over to the right. Inhale, come back up. And the left hand comes down. And it's bending over to the left. And then both hands come back up. We're going to bring both hands back down to the mat, bending our knees as we go. Inhale, come up to half forward fold, straightening out our back, really stretching out that spine. And then dropping the crown of our head down toward the ground. And then sweeping our hands all the way up overhead. Palms come together. And then we're going to drop our arms to shoulder height right in front of us. So our hands are in front of us. And we'll do some chair poses. And chair poses is a strength pose, and you'll feel it in your legs. That's the strength. But you'll also feel it in your core. The key of chair pose is really keeping your navel tucked to your spine, supporting your lower back, and then lowering your hips down toward your ankles. You're going to keep your knees just behind your toes. Don't have them extend ahead of your toes. And try to bring your thighs parallel to the ground. And then bring our arms back up again. We'll do that 2 more times. So bringing your arms down, shoulder height. Dropping our hips down toward our ankles. Keeping our knees tucked behind our toes. Thighs try to come parallel. And you can feel that strength in your legs. Navel's tucked to the spine. And then lifting back up again. And one last time. Arms come down, shoulder height. Dropping your hips toward your ankles. Come sitting down. And then come back up again. And we'll exhale, bring our hands all the way down to the mat again. Bending our knees. Inhale, half forward fold, hands to the shins. Nice straight spine. And then dropping the crown of our head down toward the mat. And then sweeping our hands all the way up. Palms come together. Palms come to heart center. And palms come to the back of our hips. We'll come into supported back bend, which they say is a strength pose. I'm saying strength, flexibility. So fingertips are pointing down, palms are on your hips, shoulders are relaxed and rolled back, chin's tucked toward your chest, and then just let your shoulders drop back. And again, find that nice Ujjayi breath where the flow is nice and even. Use that sound of the ocean as the soundtrack to your practice. And then come back up again. And we'll sweep our hands up overhead. Big inhale, exhale, bringing our hands right on down to the mat. And we're going to send our right foot all the way to the back of the mat, coming into runner's lunge. Our knee is right above our ankle on the left side, and our heel on the right foot is pushing to the back edge of the mat. And this is a strength pose. And we're going to take our left hand and sweep it all the way up to the sky, and you can follow it with your eyes. And that's a twist. So any of these standing, seated, reclined, we can twist, add twists to them, and bring that hand back down. Then we send our left foot to the back of the mat to meet up with our right foot, coming into plank pose. Plank pose is definitely a strength pose, arms and core, one of the best ones out there. So with your arms, your wrists are right below your shoulders, your fingers are splayed out, navel's tucked to the spine, elevating your hips, no saggy tummies here, please. And then your heels are pushing to the back of the mat. And you can come down to the mat, either knees, chest, chin, landing with those 3 spots first, or chaturanga, which is actually the advanced pose. So we're going to lower, keeping our elbows tucked to our ribs. Lower slowly down to the mat with chaturanga. And then with our hands right below our shoulders, keeping our elbows still tucked to our side, we're going to gently lift our chin, our chest up, and then gently pushing down, and with our hands come into cobra. And that's a flexibility pose. And then keep pushing, coming back up onto our knees, And bringing our hips down to our ankles, come into child's pose. And this is a restorative pose. It's adds flexibility, or needs flexibility, but it's one of its purposes is restorative. And then we'll come up back into tabletop, tucking our toes under. We're going to come into downward dog. So have your fingers splayed apart, index pointing up to the top of the mat. Arms are nice and straight. Chest is reaching toward the thighs, sending your hips up to the sky. And then pedal out. That's comfortable for you. And walk your dog. And then we're going to walk our feet up to our hands, coming into a forward fold. And then sweep our hands all the way up to the sky. And then we're going to face the right side of our mat. Coming into a wide-legged stance. Wide-legged stance is a balanced pose. So wide-legged stance, for this, we have two versions. This one, we're going to have our toes kind of tucked toward each other with the heels out, a slight pigeon toe effect. And then we're going to bend our knees, hinge at the hip, and send our gaze down with our back nice and flat. And then we're going to send one arm down, our left hand, so that it's touching the mat. And then sweeping with our right hand, we're going to twist our torso, bringing our right hand up to the sky. So this is almost an inversion. Your head and your heart's just about even here. And then bring your right hand back down, place it on the mat. We'll do that on the other side. So twist, lifting your left fingertips up to the sky, following them with your eyes if that's comfortable. And then bringing that hand back down. Keeping your knees bent, you're going to bring your hands back to your waist and bring yourself back upright into this balanced pose. And then we're going to pivot our left toes to the short edge of the mat and bend our knee, coming into warrior two. And all the warriors are about strength. Some have balance, some more flexible, but this one's kind of a pure strength. Like warrior one has more flexibility, warrior three is more about balance. This one's pure strength. So you really feel it in your legs. And I also like to think that this one, I feel the strength inside that warrior. I can conquer anything type of strength inside. So sweep your arms up to shoulder height, turning your finger or your gaze toward your left fingertips. And your knees, front knees over your ankle, and you just barely see your big toe tucked out on the side. The edge of your back foot's nice and snug. Just feel that strength. And then we'll lower our right hand, raising our left hand up to the sky for a reverse warrior or peaceful warrior. And that's flexibility. And then bringing your left forearm down to your left thigh, sweeping your right hand up to the sky. This is about strength. These lunges are all about strength in your legs. And this is a beginner style, and this is the difference. So if you want a little bit more advanced, you would take your left arm off your leg and send your left fingertips down to the mat. And then we're going to come back up to warrior two. Take strength to do that. And then we're going to straighten our left leg out. And then reach our left fingertips forward like we're about to grab something and go into triangle pose. So bringing our left fingers down to our left leg, sliding them down as far as it's comfortable, sending the right arm up to the sky. And then come back up to warrior two again. And then we're going to bring both arms down and come into mountain pose. You can heel toe, or heel toe your way back, or just move back into mountain pose. And we'll do another balance pose. Triangle pose was about balance. And this is, to me, the ultimate balance pose, just like warrior two was a super strength pose. This is tree pose. And it's one of my favorite. I think warrior two and tree pose are probably my two favorites, but that's this week. We'll see what happens next week. So really feel connected with the earth, both your legs, really feel grounded in mountain pose. And then you can bring your toe to the mat, right toe to the mat, left heel to your ankle, one version of tree pose. Or you can bring your sole of your foot to your shin, another version of tree pose, all balance. And the last version is bring your foot all the way up to the thigh. And employing your dristi, finding that spot in front of you that stays still, so promotes the stillness in you. And you can send your arms up, really testing your balance, which that was a test. So we'll start and do that all again on the other side. So I'll go this way now. So we're going to inhale, sweeping our hands up. Exhale, bring our hands back down, all the way to the mat. Send our left foot back, coming into runner's lunge. The straight pose, these lunges are great straight poses. Left hand on the mat, sweep your right hand up to the sky, and then back down again. We're going to bring your right foot all the way back to meet your left foot, coming into plank pose. Shoulders are right above your wrists, fingers displayed, hips are elevated, no tight, staggy tummies. Heels are pushing to the back of the mat. And then again, knees, chest, chin to bring yourself down, or chaturanga. Chaturanga, to do it right, I guess, keeping your elbows tucked to your sides and really slowly coming down to the mat. So you're really building up that strength. Your fingers would be right below your shoulders, elbows tucked to your ribs, and lifting with your chin and chest, and then pushing up with your hands coming into cobra. Flexibility. And then pushing up into tabletop, and then lowering your hips to your ankles for child's pose. And this is a restorative. I'm just catching my breath here. And then we'll come back up to tabletop. Tuck the toes under, come up into downward dog. Arms are nice and straight, fingers are splayed apart. Chest reaches toward the thighs, sending my hips up toward the sky. Pedaling out. And this is an inversion where your heart is definitely above your head. And this one, we're going to walk our hands back to our feet, coming into forward fold. And then sweep our hands all the way up overhead. And then come into wide-legged stance. The one that is a little pigeon-toed, that version. Again, that's a balanced pose. So really feel, tuck your navel to your spine, sending your glutes down and your chest up. Really feel, that you're balanced and not just the way that mountain pose does for you. And then we're going to slightly bend our knees, bring our hands to our hips, pivot from the waist, bring our gaze straight down. Our back is nice and flat. And we're going to send our hands down to the mat. Sweep our left hand from the mat up to the sky, twisting to the left. And then bring that hand back down. Send our right hand up to the sky, twisting to the right. And bring that back down. We keep our knees bent, bring our hands to our waist. Pivot our waist so that we come back up to an upright position. And then we're going to pivot our toes. Our right toes go to the short edge of the mat, coming into warrior two on the other side. So right knee is over the right ankle. And so I can just see my big toe. Back foot, I'm going to just kind of scooch out. And you can make a judgment for yourself. If when your arms are straight out, as we do, if your wrists are in line with your feet, that's a nice lunge to strive for. So again, we'll have our arms at shoulder height, gazes at our right fingertips, just feeling that strength in our legs and strength in our spirit, our soul. And then drop our left hand down, right hand goes up to the sky. More flexibility, and then bringing that right forearm down to the right thigh, sending the left hand up to the sky. And then if you want, go from beginner to intermediate, just send your right hand down to the mat. And then come back up to warrior two. And then straighten out your front leg. And we're going to reach our right hand forward and then drop it down to our right leg. For triangle pose, it's a balanced pose. And send your left hand up to the sky. And then back up to warrior two. And drop our hands and knee, heel, or keep doing that, toe heel your way back to mountain pose. Just bring your feet together. And we'll do tree pose on the other side. So we're gonna really anchor our right foot down. Our left toes and left are on the mat, left heel against our right ankle, one version. Or then you can bring your left foot up to your inner calf on the right leg, or all the way up. And just connect with that feeling of balance. And then you can raise your hands up overhead. Ta-da! And bring them down. Well done, everyone. We'll bring our toes to the edge of the mat, tucking our heels in, bring our hands to Anjali Mudra, to our heart's center, and then we're going to lower our hips toward the mat, coming into a wide-legged squat. Elbows come in the inner part of our knees. Or you can slide our hands down toward the mat a little bit more, creating a little bit more stretch. This is a strength move. And then bring our seat down to the mat. And we'll roll ourselves down. You can, again, choose the method you'd like. I'm going to use the express method, tucking my hands under my knees and just rolling back. Bringing my knees to the chest, give them a nice gentle squeeze. Maybe rock back and forth, give your lower back a nice massage. And this is the same thing as child's pose, only we're facing the opposite direction. So it's a restorative pose and flexibility. And we'll bring our arms open to the sides at shoulder height. And then exhaling, lower our knees to the right side, twisting our torso. And then gently turn your head to look at your left fingertips. Recline twist. This is flexibility, but also restorative. And then slowly turn your head back to center. Then inhale, lifting your legs back to center. And exhale, lowering over to the left side. And then gently turning your head to look at your right fingertips. Inhale, slowly return your head back to center. And inhale, return your knees back to center. And then send your feet down to the bottom of the mat and prepare for Shavasana. Bring your heels out to the corner edges of the mat and just let your feet flop open. This is a restorative. So I kind of liken it to when you cook protein, whether it's beef or poultry, they tell you to let that protein rest after you've cooked it to allow the juices to go back into the protein. And that's kind of like what Shavasana does. I mean, we've been exercising and working up sweat. This is just time to let everything just come back together again. Arms are out to the side at an angle, palms facing up. And if you tuck your chin a little bit toward your chest to really just create that nice long spine. And with a few of the basics that we learned in mountain pose about balance and connecting to the mat, this is about relaxation. So however your body just relaxes into the mat is the right way. This morning, I have a poem for you that I wrote a number of years ago. It's called Summer Lights. Dawn light emerges in the northern sky, long before the song of the early bird starts. Lit by early morning sunbeams, last night's dew is caught evaporating into the air. Daylight forces you to squint, to shade your eyes from noontime glare on the lake. Children splashing and laughing with delight, creating waves that shimmer and sparkle in the sunlight. Afternoon light stretches toward the solstice, the warm breeze pushing meadow grass to grow taller. Shadows elongate from the setting sun, washing the garden plants with a golden hue. Evening light comes slowly, letting us savor the balmy air. Reluctantly, the twilight surrenders to the night. Night lights emerge from every direction. Summer constellations illuminating the sky. Lightning bugs blinking their voices in the fields. Fireworks exploding midair, twinkling down to the ground.